What's up, guys? Thanks for checking in today. We are covering another one of the bolt action campaign books. Today we're going to take a look at the Western Desert one, which came out a little while ago, like a little over a year or so ago, and just a great one. So if you like Africa Corps, British Eighth Army, the Italians in World War II and so on, and like early, or not early, but sort of early American entry into the war in the European theater. Great stuff for you here. So again, this is the Western Desert campaign, which is kind of sort of replacing one of the earlier things I believe that Warlord had produced for that particular point in time. So let's take a look at it. It's off the bat here. It is a fairly thick one. Coming in a little over like 150 pages, so there's definitely a lot of meat on the bone here for everybody. And again, just little cover page here. Excuse me. And yeah, back in 2018. So, and again, there's a fair bit of stuff in this book. So let's just kind of run through the contents real quick, and then we'll talk about it. So we get a little bit of background. Again, Warlord's always good at doing that. Then we get Operation Compass with its specific scenarios there. Then we get Sonnenblume, Brevity and Battle Axe, Crusader, Rommel's Greatest Victory, El Alamein, the end of the beginning, as they call it here, various raid scenarios. And then we, as we normally get with these campaign books, is really cool. They add new things for us to use in the game. So whether it's infantry, vehicles, whatever, or it's just special rules, everybody gets a little bit of new stuff, and that's always good. So, and then we'll talk about some of the other criticisms we have of the book towards the end. But anyway, so the British get some new toys, the Italians and the Germans. Unfortunately, the book does not bring in the Americans. That's one of our criticisms. We'll talk about that later. And then we get new theater selectors as well. So you got Commonwealth, Italian, and Africa Corps. So let's move along here. And again, there's more. Actually, we do get Free French and Special Forces here. Lots of other things. Again, the book is very packed when it comes to those things there. And then we get some desert rules as well, so some special things there. So terrain wise, climate, so you can really go nuts on that. In the same way that the Stalingrad book does a great job of really reflecting the battle conditions on the Eastern Front and things like that, and city fighting, this Western Desert one does that too. So which is great, a great resource for the hobbyist as well, if you really want to make some awesome like Africa themed terrain boards and stuff like that. Then this is a great inspiration as well. So start off, well, what is this book? Well, let's jump into it. So a little bit of background on the war in Africa. Gosh, cannot talk today. And where we're basically at when this book picks up. So we start off with Operation Compass. And again, we're going to cover all the scenarios and other things in a whole separate series of videos, guys. This is just, again, a quick overview and review. But sort of where Mussolini got himself into trouble because, he wasn't as good as he thought he was with his sort of aspirations. Then we get into basically this first scenario here, frontier battle. Again, Warlord's always good, gives you an idea of what we need to do to set the mission up, victory conditions, all that, recommended forces. We move on, we get more scenarios here, and again, it's kind of the pattern throughout again. And even if you don't play any of these forces, it's not a bad idea to maybe invest in some of these campaign books just for the sheer amount of new scenarios to try out, because if you've played enough games, you're probably sick of just the scenario selection from the main book. So it's worth looking into some of these just to try some new things, basically. So again, we get more here. We're getting into Tobruk. Lots of these other smaller battles that don't always get enough attention. Again, we'll spend much time in our separate series of videos. Really great photos too, just to show you guys some of the things that are possible terrain-wise and hobby-wise. And then we get into Sonnenblume, sunflower, for those who don't speak German. Again, lots and lots of scenarios, and again, just you're spoiled here. Some of the more famous battles, Tobruk, of course, El Alamein. Lots and lots of good details here. So worth investing in some quality terrain. And there's a lot out there for, other scales, like, Flames of War, of course, has a lot at that scale that that game is in. But that being said, there is increasingly more stuff available at the scale that Warlord or Bolt Action is in. That being said, though, there certainly could be more. but a lot of it is just going to require actual hobby skills and making your own terrain. So, and learning how to work with foam and other stuff to represent desert terrain. But that's definitely a topic for a whole nother day, guys. So, but yeah, lots of cool scenarios. And again, taking into account a lot of the other special rules and things that we get for fighting in the desert, which can really, again, just make for some interesting battles. If you're tired of the standard missions from the core book, then any of these campaign books will really challenge you in some good ways. It's basically relearning parts of the game. So quick shout out to like Foreground, for example, is one of the great terrain makers. If you want stuff in the scale, a little bit pricey, but hey, you get what you pay for, basically, and that is awesome quality overall. So again, just flipping through the scenarios here so you can see that there's just a great diversity in the number of scenarios that are covered here. And then we get to El Alamein, of course, and a lot of these are just great to refight and some what ifs. Could you have won at El Alamein? All kinds of different things here, and some of these really do make for great sort of mega battles too. Like if it's not just one-on-one, you can definitely recreate some huge battles just to get that kind of flavor, scratch that itch for some of those big multiplayer games. So probably not so much in 2020, but for obvious reasons. But at some point when things are back to normal, that'd be great to do if you haven't already. So, and again, so many cool possibilities for scenarios, whether you want to play full-size games, more skirmish oriented, like little SAS raids and stuff like that. Everything is basically covered here as far as what you would want to do mission wise. So that's like roughly the first half of the book is just missions, campaigns, stuff like that. So really good stuff here. So then on the British side, we get more or new stuff, basically, even though it's mid-war. So wouldn't necessarily say new in the sense of timeline, but just new units because it's a new book and all that. But yeah, more or new infantry squads and teams, some new vehicles. And British section's not all that detailed, or not, I shouldn't say detailed, but just not that many different things there. And we'll talk about, again, some of the releases that accompanied the book when it came out as well. We got some things for the Italians, and obviously now we're getting some new, like we got that just recently, the new plastic kit for the Italians, the Semovente, and their other tank variant, kind of a 2-for-1 there. So it's good to finally see that, even though that happened, now 2 years after the book came out. So, but again, that's part of our criticism. But Italians get a whole heck of a lot of new things here, guys. Again, we'll review all that in a separate series. And then Germans, of course, got really spoiled with some of their releases for the Africa Corps and some of the new things they can do. Some of their releases were a little bit better timed with the book itself. Basically, the Brits and Germans got most of the attention. Italians, like I said, just got that tank this year. But really good stuff there. And then we get into theater selectors. And actually, like I said, we need to talk about that real quick. So one thing that was good to see was that we basically got, like British 8th Army and Africa Corps stuff released around the time of the book. And that really helped push that, which is great to see, new models and obviously new plastics. That being said, there's still a lot that is left off that would have been nice to see. That, again, not to make a comparison to Flames of War, but, there's things like the Diana half-track for the Africa Corps, which would have been nice to, at least, I think we got rules for it in here, but we still have no model for it. I'm not sure anybody that makes it. Again, you can kit bash and do all that stuff, but that's not really the point. When you have an awesome campaign book like this, you want to supplement it with as many releases as possible. So that would have been nice to see some of those other maybe less well-known vehicles and other stuff like that just to supplement this and get more people interested in building forces aside from just sort of the generic, or not necessarily generic, but say like the most basic and obvious releases, like some new plastic infantry and stuff like that. That could have been another resin metal hybrid kit. That would have been perfectly fine. I'm not saying like, we needed to have like a bajillion new plastic kits to accompany the book, but certainly that could have been timed better. And just seeing releases for everybody. I realize obviously Warlord's got many things in the works and timing wise and all that, but in the planning stages for the book, that certainly should have been, I think, handled better as far as accompanying miniature releases. So, like I said, Italians didn't get that plastic tank until this year, right? That's 2 years after the book has been out. And great that they finally got it, but again, People have also, I know a lot of people like their medals and all that for the infantry, and that's certainly fine, but I know people have also been clamoring to get maybe some plastic Italians as well. So again, I'm not going to get into a debate about which ones are better or anything like that. That doesn't really matter. There's good things to both the plastic and metal infantry and all that stuff, or models in general. But just again, give people more reasons to invest in the book and playing those scenarios by giving them some more models and stuff to really go with that. So again, we saw some decent stuff for Brits and Germans. I think Germans still got a little bit more overall, but just more releases to keep that going and show us more of this stuff in action. So it was just a big deal was made about it and with the releases, but then things moved on pretty quickly too. So it just would have been, again, nice to see a little bit more on the model side to accompany the release. Or even when the Italians came out this year, just like give them a couple more things aside from the one tank, just to really, again, keep people fired up and interested about playing this particular theater in the war. And again, just with what we said for the Germans, but same thing for the Brits holds true, and even the Italians, of course. And even though the Americans aren't in this book, there's so much other stuff that could at least see a model release, or needs to see a model release in some way, shape, or form. Even if we, even if we do have rules for it now, in a lot of cases, the models are really what would be interesting to accompany that as well. So that being said, we move into theater selectors. So everybody gets a lot of new things here, and it's great to, again, get different army lists. Although, and it's just one of the things with bolt action in general. Sometimes just even a lot of the selectors are just still very similar overall. So I wish that there was a little bit more variety, but that's a topic for a whole nother video. But that being said, this definitely is a different most of the lists here are definitely different than the sort of standard things you would find in their respective army books. So lots of new opportunities to try things here as well. And again, you can still play like tank war type scenarios and stuff too. But yeah, British, Commonwealth, the Italians as well. Lots of interesting things here. So, and I shouldn't be like overly or too critical on like selection. There's definitely, this is definitely different than like a generic list by and large for all of these. So, yeah, we'll talk about lists in another series of videos too. But anyway, like I said, Italians get a whole bunch of stuff, lots of new special rules coming in. Africa Corps, again, are very spoiled in this book. So if you're playing Germans and haven't played Africa Corps before, or just really are on the fence, like this book gives you so much stuff to try out. And again, it's just on a couple of those cases where like there isn't like enough good model selection. Like some things exist in the rules, but just not as far as models go. And if you don't really want to kit bash necessarily or spend a ridiculous amount of time doing that or money, it's understandable. It would be nice to see just some sort of model kit represented at some point. And again, not saying plastic kits, because those tend to be more expensive, I think, to produce, but certainly there's no reason we couldn't get like a resin metal one at some point for some of these things. Anyway, yeah, it takes us through all the different phases of the Africa Corps there. So again, really good stuff. And by and large, almost everything's covered. It's just there's a couple of neat little things that didn't maybe get produced in large numbers that would just be interesting to have the actual models for in this scale. So we also get free French as well. And again, another one where there's maybe just a lack of emphasis put on that when the book came out. Like, again, maybe show us something new or model wise, or just draw attention to it for fielding it. Again, it's pretty much the new Africa Corps and 8th Army for the Brits. Boxes sort of overshadowed everything completely. But yeah, anyway, French Free Forces get stuff too. So again, good stuff there. And again, certainly all that stuff is the stuff that does exist model-wise is, of course, on the Warlords website. Then you also get some interesting things here on sort of the special forces in the campaign. So again, a lot of these SAS raids. Again, you play smaller games of bolt action, or even try out the skirmish rules that have come out. I think firefight rules to represent some of these maybe smaller skirmish level battles. So again, lots of cool stuff there. But again, for the modeler, the hobbyist, you're spoiled for lots of interesting things to paint up and work on there. But again, yeah, lots of good stuff here for rules and units. And again, this is one we're definitely investing in some quality terrain. We'll take these from kind of being bland battles with, basically just relatively flat, featureless terrain to really spicing it up with buildings. Some of the other rougher Africa terrain, stuff like that, like dunes and cliffs and all kinds of other stuff. So lots of things there to do. Like an oasis and stuff like that. So again, Italians also get some good stuff here on the special rules. So the Bersaglieri and other things as well. And again, rules-wise, lots of good stuff represented. And Germans, of course, get some neat things as well. And then we get some special characters as well. We'll have those in a review as well. So Flying Officer, CFC Lee, and so on. And again, whether you are a big fan of the special characters or not, but it's definitely interesting to try some of them out in various games, just to, again, add that extra little bit of flavor. So again, another great thing the book does. Then we get into actual like terrain rules and things like that. So again, another series of videos that we will feature here. So lots and lots of content coming as we break the book down into its smaller sections, but way too much to cover in just one video here, guys. That should be kind of obvious for a big 150 pager here. Desert effects terrain table here. Different things for going hull down, foxholes, trenches, gun pits. So again, some other things that would be cool just to see more on the terrain side in the scale without necessarily maybe having to make it yourself. But for now, like I said, they're kind of a lot of the stuff exists in other scales as far as easy, ready-made kits, but not so much in the bolt action scale. So rules for minefields as well, really interesting stuff there. Again, just lots of different things you can incorporate into all these different scenarios, just to really keep this from ever getting stale. There's so much you could possibly do with this. And so, yeah, we top out at basically 167 pages for the book. Last page is just this stuff here, and then we get back to the ending here. So overall, definitely would recommend it. Warlord did an outstanding job on the book. And really bringing in that flavor for the Western Desert. It would be, again, nice, and maybe it was just a little bit beyond the scope, but a more updated version of sort of the American entry into the war. I can't remember if there was an announcement like that. We're getting a supplement to this, but just something more on Operation Torch and sort of the end of the Africa campaign in general. Again, would be a great chance to introduce sort of mid-war Americans that aren't veteran yet, and again, potential for some interesting models and stuff there. Again, a lot of things that exist in, for example, like Flames of War that we don't really get access to here just yet as far as models go. So that would be my main and really only gripe, is just a better coordination between model releases and the various things that exist in the book, just to tie them together. But overall, just a fantastic book. There's plenty to do here. Again, even if you don't collect any of the forces in the book, or at least at that time period, still worth looking at just for the sheer scope of different missions and rules and stuff that you can try out here. About the only thing that's missing is maybe more of a campaign book, kind of like the Stalingrad book had, just to represent that. But that could be released later, or really just import the Stalingrad campaign system kind of into here and kind of come up with your own thing. But yeah, overall, definitely a great one to pick up. Let us know what you guys have thought if you've picked this up. What forces do you play? What do you like or maybe dislike about the book? Your experiences so far? Do you think all the scenarios are balanced, or what needs work? Let us know in the comments, guys. Drop us a like if you could. Subscribe if you haven't already. And thanks so much for checking in. We'll see you in the next one.